Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Retalk Vietnam webinar. This is Oscar from Leader Associates. I feel honored to host today's webinar. Firstly, a special tribute should be paid to Trina Solar and Mr. Wilson Chan for sponsoring the session, so we are able to present the content for free and to a wider range of audience. As a global leading provider for PV module and the smart energy solution, Trina Solar delivers PV products, applications, services to promote global sustainable development. And later, Mr. Wilson Chan will share their advanced systems and projects experience. Let me give a short introduction about our today's webinar series. Retalk Vietnam is a live webinar and a networking platform to bring you more Vietnam-focused business contents and strengthen your network during the COVID-19 outbreak and complementing the physical gathering of Renewables Asset Management Vietnam 2020 in Ho Chi Minh City this October. This time, we gather a few regional business leaders in solar industry to make their points on CNI rooftop solar future in Vietnam. CNI rooftop solar is one of the most promising business fields in Vietnam because it has strong policy and regulation supports, including FIT and DPPA pilot program. In addition, as one of the largest manufacturing centers worldwide, Vietnam has an enormous and fast growing power demand in industry and commerce. Please kindly find the agenda of today's webinar on this slide. Now let me introduce our respectful speakers at today's webinar. The first one is Mr. Jose Antonio Milan Ruano, the Chief Global Development Officer from Univergy Solar. And the second one is Mr. Rohan Singh, the Managing Partner from Finagrin Asia. Mr. Wilson Chan, the Business Development Manager from Trina Solar. And Mr. Tran Zhang Ko, the CEO from Plus Solar. In addition to learning from the excellent speakers above, do not forget to network with whom you are interested in on our one-on-one meeting platform. The platform is accessible to all of the participants from 25th of this May to 31st of this May. Then I would like to introduce my company, Leader Associates, to all of you. Leader Associates provides clients with premium solutions in the fields of professional events organizations and customized business services. We're dedicated to building relationships, bringing worldwide know-how, and creating new commercial opportunities for our clients in renewable energy industry. You can also see our strong record and a strong partnership across 5 continents from the slides. Finally, I would like to give some tips to our audience. If you have any technical issues, you can use the chat box at the bottom of your screen. With the questions to speakers, please use the Q&A box next to the chat box. We will go through all the questions during each presentation. Each presentation is followed by 10 minutes Q&A session. Please do not add any further questions or comments once the Q&A session starts, as we hope to create a more comfortable environment for presenters to address the pre-asked questions. And the slides and recordings will be shared by email on this Friday. Now, let me introduce our first speaker. The first speaker is Mr. Jose Antonio Milan Ruano, the Chief Global Development Officer from Univergy Solar. Jose joined Univergy since February 2017. He leads project and business development activity for solar PV and wind projects on a global level for Univergy Solar. Let's welcome.
Hello, Oscar. Thank you very much for inviting and for giving me the chance to share my thoughts about the CNI Vietnamese market with you and with the audience. Thank you.
So, Jose, can you share your screen now and you can start your presentation?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that this is the right moment in order to share with you what has been the path of Univergy in Vietnam. Okay. Let me introduce a little bit about Univergy as a company. We are a global developer as we found Univery in Japan in 2012. The senior management of this company comes from renewables, since probably this renewable industry was more conceptual than real. We started in a few different companies in Spain in early or mid 2000, going through solar and wind development. At first stage in Spain, later on UK, France, Italy, United States in my case. In 2012, after the unfortunate event of Fukushima disaster, as you probably know, Japanese government set up an ambitious feed-in tariff scheme, and we decided to start to develop a few projects in Japan. So we moved to live to Japan, and we start to develop these projects. Okay. Since then, well, after being involved in this market for more than 8 years, we have developed more than 1.3 gigawatts of projects in more than 130 different locations. This is, I'm already speaking about solar. We started a couple of years ago, a couple of offshore wind projects in Yamaguchi and Totori area. And well, since I joined the company, we opened up to international markets. At the first stage, it was the closest markets in Asia, Vietnam, Taiwan, Australia, and of course, South America, in which we were one of the winners of the last auction in Colombia, in Mexico, in many different countries. And of course, Europe. We went back to Europe a few years ago. Well, Univery as a company, we decided to make a bid, an important bid to be present in Vietnam. Okay, I would like to use, well, this is the picture of the countries in which at development status or from EPC or EPCM point of view, we are involved. Okay. 4 years ago, we opened up our business in Vietnam. We created our Vietnamese company, and we start to develop a few projects. We have an office in Hanoi, and well, since we joined the market, we start to develop 3 opportunities. We are speaking about utility scale ground-mounted projects. Okay, the one that you are seeing already, Dak Nong project in Dak Nong province, has been developed and connected before late June of 2019. Okay, this project has been bought by Vietnamese investor, and well, we would like to think that it was quite a success and a really good experience to us in order to give us the necessary learning to. Okay, we have another. This is a layout of Dak Nong project, and this is the Mon project. This is one that we are currently developing. Okay, Tuat Tien Hue province. Okay, it's a 29.3 megawatt project. Well, the company Univery, this is a layout. Okay, well, we as company, we are quite active in CNA business. Okay, so well, the main markets in which we are involved in CNA probably are Spain and Japan. Okay, of course, and well, we just start to develop as well a few projects in Vietnam, but it's one of the potential markets to us. Well, you know quite well what's the different kind of solutions that we are providing to the customers. Okay, direct injection to the grid, the one that you can benefit for feed-in tariff in Vietnam, self-consumption, or the ones with which you can have the advantage to have some
hello,
sort of,
Jose. Seems like we lost you.
So these are the basic installation that we can develop, of course. Well, depending on the characteristic of the rooftop, you can we can adapt in order to install coplanar solutions, or in order to go through different kind of installations with drilling, with sheet metal covering L, oriented installations in order to get optimum precision, or with ballast, of course. But I think that it's going to be better. It's going to be better to let to my colleagues to speak about the technical advantage of the different solutions. I'm already would like to keep focus on the different projects that we have done up to date. Okay, maybe these are the ones that we have developed and built in Japan. Okay, Saitama, Chiba. This is more residential. We open up already the possibility to install storage systems, of course, in order to open up the door to another business scheme into the rooftop. And CNA, this is a greenhouse, okay, that it's one of the it's one of the business that we are currently developing in Japan, in which agriculture mixed with solar has a huge importance. This is what we call in Japan the solar sharing. And I think that it's something that we must keep in mind for the rest of Southeast Asian countries, of course. The Chigi, and these are projects that we have developed and built in Japan since we arrived to this market. Okay, so maybe I think that I would like to reach to this point in order to speak about what is the current situation of the CNA from the regulatory point of view. That it's something that maybe could be interesting to you to hear about it. Okay, if you are thinking and go ahead with your business under CNA scheme in Vietnam, it's important to you to understand and to hear what's the current situation. Okay, this presentation has been done under the Circular 16, that it was the one with which we have been doing the development work since the last April, in which the Circular 13 appears. And I would like to speak with you about the main changes that has been introduced into the Circular 13, okay? So it's important to say that under Circular 13, the photovoltaic rooftop projects not exceeding 1 megawatt, okay, directly or indirectly connected to the grid with a voltage of 35 kV or less, okay. These are the ones that will have the benefit to get feed-in tariff without the necessity to go to the master plan. So that means that you are going to develop and apply your project with the provincial branch of EVN, okay, in order to register the capacity of the plant, in order to submit the business plan of your project, and to let know what kind of modules, inverters, and supplies will be included in your project. Projects over 1 megawatt will consider it as a project, as I mentioned, that needs to go to the master plan, okay? The current feed-in tariff that we can have for these CNA rooftop projects, it's, well, the equivalent in US dollar to 8.38 US cents, okay? This tariff, as you probably heard, will be adjusted in accordance with the fluctuation of the applicable exchange rate with the central Vietnamese dong US rate announced previously by SBU in order to calculate the electricity bill, okay? This feed-in tariff is only applicable if the initiatives are put into operation and have a data meter confirmed between 1st of July of 2019 and 31 of December of 2020. One of the requirements is the solar cell capacity. It must be higher than 16%. And well, what happens if you are not going to connect your project? But that's probably you will need to wait in order to try to arrange a direct PPA, or what we understand as corporate PPA. Okay. One of the important points under Decision 13, it will be that the investors of rooftop solar projects, okay, could sell the electricity power generated to EVN or its member by entering into a model of PPA, okay? Or, and this is quite important because it's mentioned in the Circular 13 and open up an important door to every one of us, as a private PPA will be negotiated between the parties, and the provision of this of the Decision 13 as discussed, well, give us the opportunity to open up the scenario to have a direct PPA. That is something quite important to us, okay? So, well, another important issue to mention is that, well, only to mention, Decision 13 also provides a payment mechanism in which, well, with the payment of the invoice, it's made on the basis of electricity output and input separately. So, well, the decision stands maybe flexible with the wording in relation to use the bidirectional meters, okay, in order to have some sort of provision of the payments coming from, well, when you are consuming or when you are selling the electricity to EVN. In any case, I think that it's, well, something that we must mention, okay, and it's something that it's important to say. Well, I think that speaking about the potential of the CNA market already in Vietnam, it's, or maybe it's quite important to speak about the importance of what we have been, what most of the developers, investors, and maybe as well the players of this industry we have been waiting for, and it's to start to create the right framework, legal framework to welcome to the direct PPAs, or what we consider the corporate PPA. Last 21st of January, MIT submitted a proposal. It's a 544 proposal in which the Prime Minister, with a new draft, okay, puts things on track in order to have an approval for a pilot program on direct power purchase agreements, okay, what we understand as corporate PPAs. These mechanisms comes, as I mentioned, with this draft, with this proposal, okay, in order to create a proposed pilot program at with the scale from 400 megawatts to 1,000 megawatts. And well, the main aspects to consider about this program, it's that, well, I think that the MIT has been checking with the Electricity and Regulatory Authority of Vietnam the different options, okay, in order to create a sleeve PPAs, synthetics, or virtual PPAs, in order to analyze what could be or what are the pros and cons in the context of Vietnam, okay? So seems that they are more on the side to create these synthetic direct PPAs, okay, as proposed model, okay, and through the criteria of open up an scenario to create Gencos for projects that are already generating electricity, solar or wind projects, they are going to give the possibility to register your project under certain requirements. You must have capacity larger than 30 megawatts. You must have obtained approval for inclusion into the power development plan. Okay, don't have any grid congestion issues in your project, and of course to show certain financial capability in order to overcome this. Okay, there's another criteria for participating as private power buyers, and of course, well, I think that what we need to understand in order to assume that this is going to be acceptable model for most of the sponsors, we need to analyze the direct PPA contracts in all the forms, the contract for difference between Genco and power consumers. We need to analyze if in the case it's necessary to have market buyer power supply agreements between power consumers and EVN. We need to understand in order to analyze the risk allocation this agreement. It's early, and as unfortunately happens in Vietnam, everything is based on drafts and not final decisions. So what we can do already is to expect to have these finalized. But in any case, I think that it's quite important to understand that the Vietnamese authorities are already working on this structure in order to give us the possibility to reduce the regulatory risk in the pipelines that as developers, sponsors, or long-term investors we have currently in Vietnam. Okay, I think that from my humble point of view, and keeping in mind that the current situation of Vietnam as a country, that it's growing a lot and is welcoming huge companies and enterprise, the opportunities linked to stabilize PPA, direct PPAs agreement with this industry, I think that gives another value to a market that I clearly believe that it's probably the leading market in terms of volume already in Southeast Asia and most of the countries in Asia. Okay, this is linked to CNA. I would like as well to understand and to speak a little bit about what the picture that every one of you have in mind in order to analyze a little bit what are the changes coming through this new Circular 13 give us in the most important point, that it's the current PPA that we are going to use in order to obtain this feed-in tariff. Okay, and it's important to mention this because most of you are already thinking about it, go through this investment or wait a little or understand what's the current situation, and this is the reason why you are probably attending this webinar. Okay, so what are the main aspects that has not been solved? I would like to mention the most important. Okay, and the most important is that with the Circular 13 and the amendments done in the PPA draft, we continue having important issues, and these issues are related to that the PPA does not impose a clear take or pay obligation on buyers. So that's not assure seller a warranted revenue stream and adequate return. This is an important issue, okay, that has not been solved, but probably gives concern to most of the foreign investors, okay. Well, the other important point to mention is that for Circular 13 didn't solve or give us peace of mind in order to have a explicit mention to international arbitration for disputes. Okay, it's only mentioned that you must hold in terms of good faith, and well, it's obvious that it's linked to Vietnamese laws, and this is something that, as well as I mentioned, for maybe needs to be rechecked. Okay. Another important issue is regarding the compensation of damages. Okay, the violating party must demonstrate damage and consequently losses. Well, I think that it's always difficult, mostly based on an estimation. I think that this is something that must be improved, and as well, I think that quite important. Okay, the PPA provides simple provisions relating to force majeure events. Okay, so well, as I mentioned, it's important to try to improve, the terms related into this PPA draft related to force majeure events. Okay, because we need to point out if this is related to non-governmental force majeure event, and what it's going to be or comes through governmental force majeure events. As EVN, it's a state-owned company. There's possibilities that EVN relies on governmental event in order to refuse its obligations under PPA, and this could be a headache for investors. Okay. And as other important point that I would like to speak or to mention, and in order to everyone to understand what could be, or the ideas that we have learned from the past in most mature markets that we can put over the table. I think that it's important to think, that when you have an ambitious target for the renewable energy objective that you have set, you must keep in mind what's the situation of your infrastructures, okay? And the current situation, especially in certain areas of Vietnam, of the infrastructures, it's that there's grid constraints, okay? We are seeing already cases of curtailment. This is something that as well we need to be realistic in order to start to create the necessary actions in order to solve these. I would like to think that maybe in order to improve the infrastructure in Vietnam, it could be interesting to think into enter into infrastructure concessions through tenders to allow more competitive scenarios, okay, in less time consuming process, maybe to include the storage systems as well in order to create certain grid stability. It's going to be something in which the grid operator needs to think about it. Okay. As well, the subsidy scheme. Well, the subsidy scheme, as we mentioned, and related to CNA, we consider that it could be Vietnamese regulators need to think in create additional support mechanisms for companies that could invest renewable energy projects. A clear example to have tax exceptions for private companies, as I mentioned, that are cooperating to reduce CO2 emissions through renewable energy projects, which could be more than acceptable. Okay. As well, and as I mentioned, the direct PPA, it must be necessarily one of the dynamizers of the market, and we need to speed up, okay, the streamline regulations regarding direct power purchase agreements, okay, and Vietnamese Ministry of Industry must speed up the electricity buyers and renewable energy providers to enter into the direct PPAs, okay, because this will allow to industrial energy buyers to purchase electricity directly from independent power producers, and well, this will help to companies to enjoy certain constant power prices and ultimately save power costs by signing these long-term and mid-term PPAs, okay? I think that another idea to create the right environmental for these CNA projects is, well, to improve the transparency of the electricity rate forecasting, okay? Well, electricity prices, under my humble point of view, we need to have the chance to finance new projects, but the schedule for and the necessary transparency of the expected price, well, will allow to buyers and investors to have more accurate value about fixed cost and renewable energy contracts. Okay, I think that it's quite important to get involved to renewables into new real estate or industrial parks developments. I think that it could be another idea in order to create this right business environmental in order to speed up the CNA business. Okay, I think that industrial areas will continue to have a big role in this Vietnamese growing manufacturer and commerce industry. And these are important places to explore how to implement renewable energy solutions. I think that it's something that it could be important. And this is linked to something that I already said. Okay? It's obvious, but I think that under my humble point of view, the incentive as in form of tax breaks or preferential loans or renewable certificates, energy certificates will speed up this current situation in order to create a more reliable environmental for CNA renewable project. I think that more or less, and under my humble point of view, I would like to finish up this presentation because I don't want to get more time than the one that belongs to me in this. But honestly speaking, and this is my honest point of view, I think that the potential of the Vietnamese government is huge. Okay, but speaking about what we have lived in the last 3 years, and being absolutely honest with every one of you, I think that from some sort of standards of the industry to finance renewable energy projects, or maybe these solar projects with corporate finances, it's already happening in Vietnam. It's some sort of distortion that this industry that we have been pushing a lot in order to create. Okay, so in order to give to the long-term investors, the sponsors, developers, and lenders, of course, more friendly environmental, I really ask to the Vietnamese regulators in order to create the right framework through the right PPAs, okay, taking account of the comments that I have done already. This is quite important, and this is my humble point of view. The how big this market will be, it's linked to the cooperation of the local authorities in order to give us support to create the right environmental. So, well, this is everything from my side. Happy to speak with you in private or wherever in order to solve more questions that's about our experience in Vietnam.
Okay, thank you, Jose, for your presentations. Here, we have some questions from our audience for you and for University Solar, and also please kindly also check your Q&A box. There are a couple of questions. I would suggest you to take question number 1 and number 4 to answer, because due to the limited time.
Okay, so I think that maybe the one is, do you think that Vietnam's current legal framework and infrastructure are ready for the new wave of investment on renewable energy? Well, honestly speaking, and as I mentioned, well, the legal framework, the current legal framework don't gives a lot of comfort for foreign investors. Okay, so I would like to think that maybe having in mind that there's a lot of potential in all the business that I mentioned. Well, to make the improvements that I mentioned into the PPA draft, taking account about the big issues the current PPA has, and that we mentioned it into the scenario of the take and pay, the international arbitration, okay, and the rest of the important aspects, well, will be quite important in order to think that the current legal framework will welcome to the new investors in renewable energy. How to overcome or how to get this non-recourse finance, it's going to be quite important to you. If you are thinking in invest in Vietnam, but in the other side, as I mentioned, there's a lot of potential in this market. Okay, this is probably one of the few markets in Asia in which you can think to develop and to invest in more than 50 megawatts, 100 megawatts, and this is a reality, opening different scenarios to you if you want to invest in solar, wind, offshore wind, okay, and having in mind that you as asset owner must have the possibility to try to mitigate the risk of your pipeline going through direct PPAs and reducing your regulatory risk. I think that why not? Okay, and the number 4, what are some of the major challenges to be an overseas IPP in Vietnam seasonal market? Okay, this is a good one. Okay, honestly speaking, it's not the same to speak as overseas investor as to speak about a Thai investor coming to Vietnam than a Canadian investor coming to Vietnam. The reality is what it is, okay? And I mentioned, okay, if you are going to be an IPP, well, having in mind that you have invested a lot of money, okay, and that you have an unclear scenario in the PPA that you have signed that could open up to you to have an interruption into your revenue stream coming from certain court payment problems or the take and pay or the take and pay obligations through this PPA. It's something that could sound scary for a traditional investor. In the surrounding area, and the investment companies from surrounding area of Vietnam, Thai investors or Malaysian investors, Vietnamese investors, start to think comfortable with this scenario. I would like to think that to open up the possibility to create the right framework for direct PPAs will give the possibility to IPPs to reduce the regulatory risk and to increase the pipeline, okay? But in any case, you know, as I mentioned, the challenge are already over the table of the Vietnamese regulator in order to try to create this necessarily right regulatory framework and this right PPA in order to make this market sustainable and, of course, to give us the opportunity to have the possibility to financing our projects without corporate loans and go through the standard of this industry that everyone accepts that it's non-recourse finance. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jose, and very brilliant. Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. The second speaker is Mr. Rohan Singh, the managing partner from Finagreen Asia.
Hi, Oscar. Yeah, thanks.
Yes. With close to 10 years spent in corporate and project finance in Paris, London, Singapore, Rohan is a leading Finagreen's Asia office and bringing a couple of deals to completion as the recent closing of equity and debt finance for Constant Energy as a CNI solar energy platform in Southeast Asia. And Rohan, can you share your screen and start your presentation?
Sure, here we go. Hi everyone. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So thanks very much again, and let me take the opportunity to tackle the financing aspects of the rooftop solar projects in Vietnam. So before deep diving into more specifically rooftop CNI sector, let's just take a step back with some track record happened in Vietnam over the past few months, few years. Of course, Vietnam has always been quite active in renewables with hydro, first of all, and more recently in wind and solar. And to give a distinction between, let's say, ground-mounted and rooftop PV, we've seen a different set of investors providing, of course, different instruments of financing, whether equity or debt financing. Of course, the ground-mounted with the recent feed-in tariff set the ground for, let's say, a huge volume of project that has been delivered so far with, of course, local conglomerates who are diversified into renewable energy, but also more specifically international investors who entered the market because that the Vietnamese market, they gave the opportunity to achieve scale and volume quite rapidly. So that's on the ground mounted from the equity side. And the debt side, we've seen a lot of projects that the solar projects recently been financed mainly by local Vietnamese banks and less from international lenders. But having said that, for rooftop, I think we're, like Jose mentioned, it's still a nascent market, nascent niche. Of course, overall in Southeast Asia, we do have some, let's say, pioneer countries like India, China, Thailand, who can give some track record on how to develop these market and these subsectors. But we've seen a couple of announcements recently from local players, but also some international regional platforms who are quite interested in developing the rooftop solar market in Vietnam, and who can also benefit from the current regulation. But for sure, that regulation needs some more visibility and some clearance on what could happen above beyond the lines, specifically on the feed-in tariff. But so far, it's quite early to say that Vietnam could. Of course, Vietnam has a huge potential, but similarly to what happened in Thailand, for instance, with the banking side, that will need some time. And for in between, I think that the way to bridge and to continue developing this project and to achieve some scale, it's really to provide some equity financing and to develop those projects by using equity instruments or quasi-equity instruments and re-leveraging those projects and assets with some debt financing. So that's more on the track record. Let's move on maybe on what is the typical CNI financing strategy and how it works generally. Of course, that's from my own opinion, from what we've seen also in neighborhood markets. But usually what I said, it's first of all, to achieve some scale and to achieve some scale before getting any debt financing, those scale and this portfolio needs some equity financing. So the first, let's say 5-10 megawatt, I usually finance full equity. And once we've got some good sponsor backed by equity providers or has enough equity to be deployed, then the question is more how to fund the subsequent portfolio and PPAs that could be signed following this seed capital and seed portfolio of 5-10 megawatt. So basically what the investors and the lenders are quite, let's say, are quite keen to look at, it's basically to the ability of the management team to achieve scale. Of course, the track record, not necessarily on rooftop because still nation market, but overall on the renewable be able to deploy a platform in the past or be able to develop a specific pipeline. And then, of course, it's also the scalability of the management team to achieve a certain scale, because those projects are quite small quite often. It tends to be from a couple of kilowatt to some 1 or 2 megawatt. And for an investor to be attracted, he needs some scale, because that implies and involves some transaction costs, and without having any scale, it's hard to mention the specific size of a scale, because it depends on the profile of the investor. Some investor would be happy to have at least 20-30 megawatt per year getting operational, where some others would require minimum 50 or 60 megawatt. But then the question is, would the market be deep enough to deliver this size and these opportunities? I think the question is yes, in those markets quite similar, where you have a lot of industrial clusters in Thailand or in Vietnam. And then the question is also for an investor, specifically for an equity investor, what would be the strategy to refinance those portfolio once you achieve this scale, or whether it's 5, 10, it tends to be a bit higher than 10 megawatt. From 10, 15 megawatt, we can start considering to leverage the portfolio. And at the end, it's more about also the exit strategy of the overall platform or the overall CNI portfolio. So that's basically how it works in terms of portfolio life cycle along with the funding sources. So basically, first to achieve some seed capital portfolio, then to achieve scale and re-leverage and replicate and stabilize the portfolio and standardize somehow, the process of those CNI rooftop projects. In terms of fund providers, of course, we've seen a lot, without giving any names here, but basically we can distinguish two sets of investors who are willing to participate in this new, let's say, CNI wave, is whether on the equity side instruments, where you can have IPPs willing to aggregate megawatts, already have experience in this sector in neighborhood countries, in India, Thailand, etc., and wanted to enter into a new market, and Vietnam is one of those markets. It could be also some private equity firm, but those firm has not necessarily the in-house team to let's say to achieve this business, or have the in-house capabilities, and needs to back an existing platforms or management team. That also could be, and we've seen many recent transactions on this side. And then on more limited and more recent move and wave we've seen is more family offices who are keen to look at these CNI portfolios, because that gives them a really good way of diversifying the risks by allocating their capital into different SPVs. Could be in different countries with the different currency and different contracts from PPAs or lease agreement, for instance. So for them, it's a really good way to take some minimum risks, but maximizing their returns for sure. And finally, we do have some, of course, interest and some track record also of concrete projects and opportunities that have been already refinanced or financed with some debt financing. We have to distinguish, of course, on the debt financing, different debt providers. Could be some multilateral agencies, but in Vietnam, it would be mainly driven, of course, from local banks, first of all, and then we do have also different international commercial banks who are keen to look at this. But for sure, once again, the scale is really a concern from those lenders, because to get involved, they need really some visibility on the pipeline and the ability also to achieve this scale in a certain time frame. Just one on the high availability. High availability here, it doesn't necessarily mean very active in the rooftop solar sector, as the ticket size is always an issue for those investors, but at least there are some investors who have some deep pocket, but and are keen to look at this sector and these kind of projects compared to a more ground-mounted or utility scale traditional type of project. So that's on the fund providers. Let me maybe give you a quick case study on a recent CNI debt transaction that we worked on. And of course, this structure is just one example of how you can structure this CNI portfolio. This is an offshore structure, but could be, of course, in a different way or to raise debt financing for CNI project in Vietnam. Of course, that could be, and it depends also where. Who is the sponsor? Is it a local sponsor? If it's a really 100% Vietnamese local sponsor, that makes sense to raise some debt onshore local financing. But if it's a, let's say, international player, regional players, then it makes sense to maybe raise a holdco type of debt financing like this one, where the projects were located in Thailand and we raised debt financing at the Singapore holdco. So basically, the first, the whole work from the lenders and from the institution is really to see, to have a clear understanding of the seed portfolio that the sponsor is bringing to completion on the very short-term basis, and then it's having an extensive due diligences on the different PPAs, how were those PPAs, are those PPAs bankable, the EPC contracts, etc. And then we do have a certain commitment that could be dispersed in different tranches for sure. And portfolio and all that due diligences work needs a lot of financial engineering, of course, because of the currency exposure, because of the different contracts, and of course of meeting the different covenants that has been set by the institution, the debt providers. And that set the ground for the future project to contemplate, the template for the contract and to have, let's say, light due diligences for the second tranche or for further drawdowns on those type of portfolios. One interesting aspect of this structure is the fact that this structure can be replicated, and it's sometimes quite flexible to be replicated in different countries. Of course, the main hurdle is really the currency exposure. If the currency is too volatile, that would be quite hard to be competitive compared to local markets. And of course, it's also depends if there is enough liquidity on the local debt financing as well. For instance, having a financing for CNI portfolios in Vietnam might be much easier than perhaps having a CNI portfolio financing in maybe Myanmar or Indonesia, where the rupiah is quite volatile. So that's something that has been done and performed in the past, and we've seen also other transactions that have been leveraged and financed and provided. Of course, Vietnam, to do a zoom on Vietnam today compared to Thailand, I think we are maybe where we were in Thailand 1 or 2 years ago, where local banks were not very familiar on how to finance those projects and those portfolios. But today we've seen a couple of interest from local Thai banks, Taciturn, etc., in local markets to provide this debt financing. And because also the scale mounted is a bit slowing down in Thailand, and we are quite sure that this is going to happen as well in Vietnam for this rooftop solar projects as well. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell what we can say on the rooftop CNI side in Vietnam. Just quick word on Green to finish on this. So basically, we're financial advisor dedicated to renewable energy, and we focus on raising different source of funding. Could be equity, quasi-equity, debt financing, mezzanine for clients who are mainly sponsors, developers, IPPs. Not only, of course, CNI, even though we have a couple of exposure so far, but also ground-mounted, hydro, and different type of subsectors of renewables. And we do have a different presence across the world. And we're based in Singapore with a team of 5 people now. And yeah, happy to answer any question if you may have. Thanks very much, everyone. So Oscar, would you like me to answer the questions, or
yeah. Here are some questions for you. Sorry, we have some questions on the screen already, and also you can see a couple of questions in your Q&A box, and remember to answer them after your presentation. And here's a question for you, and 5 questions for you from our audience, for you and for Finnegreen.
Okay, would you like me to select some of them, or to answer, I don't know, just for the sake of the time?
Yes, you can answer. I will suggest you to answer question 1, 3, 4, 5, and also there are, let me check, there's a question on the Q&A. I'll just share one question with you again. Here's one question from the audience. Do you think there's a financial opportunity for energy storage to support rooftop solar in Vietnam?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think above Vietnam, beyond Vietnam, the question is more, is storage viable today overall on the renewable energy industry? I think the question is maybe a bit too early to think of adding the storage component, given that the rooftop solar is quite nascent in Vietnam, first of all. And secondly, the tariff, which is quite attractive at the moment, makes the rooftop solar without energy storage component already quite appealing and attractive. And finally, the net metering, where you can sell partially the surplus to the grid, makes also these the returns quite decent. So I would say that for now, perhaps it's too early to add the storage component for rooftop in Vietnam.
Okay, and there are many some of the other questions in the Q&A box for you. You please kindly check your Q&A box after your presentation. And also here are 5 questions. I would suggest you to take 4 of them for to answer the full of the questions. Question number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Okay, sure. So what are the biggest financial challenges for private sectors to join Vietnam's solar market? So if I understand the question correctly, so that's for different type of investors. So I guess the big challenge is today, of course, it's and to mix with the question 4, it's the COVID-19 and the availability of the debt financing locally would be a major hurdle to see to give enough comfort for equity investors to come in today and to start deploying equity investment into the rooftop solar market in Vietnam. Secondly, I think that it's the rooftop market in Vietnam is still a niche market where we need some more visibility on the regulation side, and of course that happened also for Grand Mountain, but that would be also one of the key hurdles for deploying faster some capital and some financing into the Vietnamese CNI solar market. And finally, I think the track record from existing players a bit early to have some step back and saying and betting on who will be the right developers or sponsors to back today in Vietnam. But I think that's a matter of time. That could be delayed, of course, with this COVID-19, where at the end of the day, the rooftop solar, it's really a question of pace and to deploy equity quickly, because the time frame and the window is always quite short. First of all, in terms of regulation, but also in terms of execution, which is quite rapid and short compared to Grand Mountain. So that's a mix of answer for question 1 and 4. So the question 3 would be, what would be the optimal financing models for renewable energy projects? So I think that as discussed earlier in the presentation, the typical CNI financing solution we've seen, it's basically to start deploying fairly quickly, and that's with some equity financing already available. And then, of course, there's no point just financing the whole portfolio with equity financing, but to re-leverage the portfolio with some debt financing. We need just to take into account that some of the institutions don't really like to refinance operational assets, but rather greenfield assets. So more development greenfield projects in Rooftop, basically PPA sign. So that would be the optimal financing models. So basically financing first of all with equity and refinancing with debt. And then the question is more what level of what type of conditions we can have, terms and conditions for the debt financing to make these leverage quite efficient and maximizing the returns. So that's the question for 1, 3, and 4. Is it okay for you, Oscar? Or?
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your presentation and your answer to all these questions. And
Sure.
I'll leave you sometimes for the Q&A questions. Please kindly check
Sure.
your Q&A box. Thank you very much
I'll
for your time, Rohan. And
thanks, Oscar. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you again. Let's move on to our next speaker. The third speaker is Mr. Wilson Chan from Trina Solar. Wilson is currently the business development manager in charge of the APAC region. Is well-versed in both technical and commercial matters for solution business. He has over 6 years of experience in solar EPC business and worked as project manager with international EPC contractors. Hello, Wilson. Can you share your screen now and begin your presentation?
Hi, good afternoon, Oscar, and all the attendees. Thank you for having me. All right, I am now sharing screen. So just let me know if you can see the main screen, the Trina Solar Systems solution. All right, fantastic. So let me start. Hi, so my name is Wilson, and as earlier introduced by Oscar, I'm the BD manager over in Trina Solar Asia Pacific, and I take care of solution services. If there are any questions for me, please feel free to reach me at my email as indicated on the first slide. Right, so let me begin. Sorry. All right, I'll just be explaining a little bit about Trina Solar today, who we are, what we do. Subsequently, I'll explain a little bit more about the solutions team, which is where I'm from and where my team is from. We are all based in Singapore, and we work around in this APAC region in multiple countries here to provide our end clients with solutions based on different kind of deployments, be it for rooftop, utility, floating, carports, and etc. My third point will be about what are some of the benefits with working with Trina Solar as your solution provider. And finally, I'll just go through some of our portfolio and our applications that we have done in the region. Right, so moving on, in terms of Trina Solar as a whole, Trina Solar is, of course, primarily a solar module manufacturer. The headquarters is based over in Changzhou, China. We have regional offices all over the world. In the APAC region, we have Singapore. In Europe, it will be in Zurich. And in the US, we have our office in San Jose. So Trina Solar has shipped globally around the world more than 45 gigawatts worth of solar modules. We have, of course, also connected did projects, solutions for over 3 gigawatts of solar projects, most of which are based in China. We have served over 100 countries, multiple customers all over, and we employ over 13,000 employees in Trina Solar. And of course, being a solar module manufacturer, I'll take a bit of time to explain what is our latest offering from Trina Solar. So a couple of months ago, back in February, we officially announced our Trina Vertex modules. Basically, this opens up the 500 watt peak era of monocrystalline solar modules. I think ever since then, the market, the industry in general has already caught up, and everyone is trying to provide these 500 watt peak panels. So basically, for Trina Solar, we have 500 watt peak panels. These panels have very high reliability because of the way we we cut the cells. Hold on, let me go to the next page. Yeah, there we go. So the way we cut our cells, the cells and the design using multi-bus bus have allowed our solar modules to achieve this 500 watt peak power rating. And if I move on to the next page, I think for most people, this would be of interest to them. With bigger solar modules, basically we get to see savings on your BOS or your balance of system. From this slide, we basically had a simulation done for a 100 megawatt project. Our team did some design and engineering, and overall we expect that there could be as much as about a 1 cent savings in your BOS compared to the typical 400 or even 450 watt peak solar modules available today. Of course, this is just for the BOS. Potentially, there could be even more savings because you can take into account that land needs to be purchased for utility project. You also get design flexibility, such as because it will occupy a lesser footprint for the same system capacity. So you get some design flexibility, such as avoiding near and far shading, or perhaps obstacles such as roads and power lines. So there is also the added benefit that you have lesser environmental impacts in terms of do lesser land clearing or land filling, so lesser impact on the environment as well. So that's just a touch on what is our latest offering from Trina Solar in terms of our modules. Next, in terms of our commercial solutions, which is again where I'm from, I'll be explaining a little bit about what we do and the services we provide. But before we go there, I think it would be of interest to maybe just have a slide to explain about Vietnam's energy supply challenges. All right. So we know that energy tariffs around the world, Vietnam included, are constantly on the rise. So back in 2009, Vietnam's energy tariff was about 4.1 cents US per kilowatt hour, and it has been showing an annual increase, and now it's about double that back in September 2019 last year. So what this means for end users, for factory owners, would be increased operational costs. Apart from the increase in energy tariff, we also have the issue of grid stability and energy demand. Basically, the Vietnam EVN is trying to increase the overall grid capacity by 6 to 7 gigawatt a year to match on with the increase in demand coming out from the rapid build up in terms of there's tourism, there's industrialization over in Vietnam. So there's a lot of demand for energy, and there's a lot of plans to also increase renewable energy mix to at least 21% by 2030. But what does that mean in the meanwhile is that there are potential blackouts, power disruptions, power stability issues in certain sectors in Vietnam. Of course, the third point about environmental impact pollution, right? Vietnam has quite a bit of coal-fired power plants as well as gas-fired power plants, both in the north and the south. They mix up for almost 60% of their current grid energy provision. So all these traditional sources of energy comes with the slightly negative connotation of pollution, right? And last but not least, I think COVID-19 is a very popular topic today. Earlier on, Rohan also mentioned a little bit about it, but from a financial perspective, yes, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the market. Developers, lenders, banks, a little bit cautious as to whether they should finance projects, solar projects or not, right? Of course, in terms of from an implementation point of view, you have power, you have there are delays in power and utility projects. You know, you've got supply chain disruptions because a lot of our components are coming from China nowadays. There's manpower issues because, you know, people cannot go to the sites, they cannot go to work, they got to work from home. So all these are basically the challenges that I would say, not only in Vietnam, but I think in many countries we face this issue because of COVID-19. But specifically for Vietnam, of course, as mentioned earlier, there is a feed-in tariff which currently expires by December 2020. So with this, we see that, you know, everyone is already trying to rush and finish their projects by the end of the year, but because of COVID-19, because of a lot of lockdowns in the country, you know, we originally saw quite a bit of delays when it comes to building solar projects in Vietnam. So these are the challenges, right? So then how do we go about providing solutions in Vietnam? Basically, from where we come from, we can provide the full turnkey solution provider to our customers. We can help them to develop projects. Basically, we conduct feasibility studies, we do all the necessary technology selection, do risk assessments. Of course, if also necessary, we can link up potential bidders with financing partners from, because in Trina, we partner a lot with financing partners from France, Japan, and China, major lenders and banks. So basically, if necessary, we also can help to support project development and explore it from a financial point of view. Next, if of course we develop the project and, you know, there is a keen interest to move on, then of course we do pre-construction work, detailed engineering, documentations. We will work with end users as to, you know, planning out their schedules, procurements, sourcings, etc. Right? Eventually, you know, when we talk about construction, I think this is something that we pay particular attention to. Basically, we have a very strong project management team. We've done multiple projects, megawatt project, rooftop utility projects in Thailand, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and of course in China. So on top of that, we will also vet through and work with reliable and reputable local partners on the ground as well. So we hold very, very high regard for safety and quality control, and most of our customers are very, very pleased with this point, because at the end of the day, a solar system is actually an asset. So the last thing you need is for your system to be failing just within, say, a year or so. So we take our construction very, very seriously, and I think a lot of our customers are very appreciative of this point. So subsequently, after we build something, then we talk about asset management and of course the operation and maintenance of a PV plant. Basically, over in Trina, we also have our very own Trina Aurora, which is a monitoring platform. It is widely deployed in most of our projects over in China, but this system can be deployed anywhere in the world. So apart from, of course, doing monitoring, we of course also have our own in-house O&M team. We conduct in-house repairs and reporting and maintenance for all of our pipelines and for our customers. So basically, that's where my solution teams come from. And in terms of the benefits of working with Trina Solar, I think firstly, it's easier to always figure out what are the challenges, you know, that we have received feedback from our customers. Basically, points such as low bankability, unreliable after-sales support and services, lack of communication thereof, and of course, poor safety control. These are the pain points that we always hear from our customers around the region. And some of them have also showed us some of their local concerns when they did with their previous installers. So, you know, they were concerned about during the installation phase, the mounting system wasn't mounted properly, resulting in leaks into their production lines. They had improper cable termination, which resulted in arcing and fires inside the distribution board. They shared with us that there was always a lack of project management, lack of quality checks, and overall lack of safety on the site itself. So that is something that we bring across as a very strong benefit from where we come from, because our team puts a lot of emphasis on QA/QC and on safety. So because of that, what does this result in? Of course, would be cost optimization for the solar system, right? So I think you can easily split it up into two. You have your upfront costs, basically what you're going to be paying for the system, well, upfront, and then subsequently when you finish the whole thing, you're going to need to maintain it. So in terms of upfront costs, I think having strong supply chain management is very important to help to keep the overall cost of products low, so your overall system cost is kept at a very competitive level, right? You also need to have a very experienced engineering team to optimize the design, right? Be it from your string lengths, be it from optimizing or doing simulations to avoid shading, so that the solar system is providing its maximum output, right? You want to have top tier components for your system reliability so that they last for as long as possible. Solar systems are a long-term asset planned to provide energy for all the way up to 20 years, 25 years, right? And last but not least, like I said, it's preferable if you have a very strong PM and QA/QC teams for your installation, so that you minimize any risks when you are constructing the project. After that, we talk about running the project. You want to have affordable and also rapid after-sales service. So this is very key, because anytime your solar plant is not operating, it basically just means you're not you're not generating any energy and you're not earning any revenue off the plant itself. That of course goes along with regular servicing of the PV system. I would say that I think PV systems are relatively maintenance free, but there are still times whereby every couple of months you might want to clean the panels and also check up on the inverters. Basically, the mechanical part of the solar system will need to be checked up every 6 months or so. So if you settle all the upfront and operating portion of a plant, then you get a maximum energy yield if you have done a very good design and also a very good installation. Apart from having energy yield, you have good products to ensure the longevity of the PV system, and in conclusion, you get a lower levelized cost of electricity for this solar system. Hence, basically for us, right, Trina Solar provides you, our end users and customers, with excellent bankability. We are a very, very reputable brand. The reputation in the market for Trina Solar is also very well perceived. We have a very strong and experienced solution team. We are based in the region. We have teams operating out of Singapore as well as in Thailand. Specifically for Vietnam, we have a local presence there as well. For that, we have our sales team, which are locally deployed over in Vietnam, as well as a factory over there. So apart from that, all right, we also provide a one-stop service and integrated solution. Basically, it's end-to-end. There's no shifting of blame, just one party from start to end of a project. System components and warranty, like I said, we provide everything, including the warranty as well. Strong global presence and supply chain management is something that might interest perhaps large MNCs, companies which have presence not only in Vietnam, but perhaps in the region. These are also we have customers like these, which are basically, they look to Trina because we are able to assist them and help them to build plants around the region in their plants. So this is something that we see as a very strong advantage for working with Trina Solar. And last but not least, as I mentioned above, about quality control and safety. So finally, let me just show you some of the applications and portfolio that we have done. This is our own floating PV system. It's located in the Anhui province in China, 130 megawatts. The interesting thing about this is Trina Solar financed it, built it, and currently own and operate this particular plant. It serves as a very, very good reference for our solutions team and also to our customers who are very, very interested in floating systems. We also do designs for carports. This is one which is located in Australia. Rooftop C&I. We have quite a few in Thailand of various sizes. Yep. And even over in Pakistan as well, we have a couple of projects which are running there. We've built them and put them on basically rooftop projects for all of these. And finally, some over in India as well. So basically, that's all I have for today. Thank you for having me. I believe if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilson, for your sharing. Here we have 5 questions from our audience for you and for Trina Solar. I would suggest you to take 3 of them due to the limited time. And I would suggest you to take question number 2, number 3, and number 5.
Sure. Let's see. The latest technology in solar power industry. Okay, I think I've mentioned this in my slide earlier. Right now, we start to see the 500 watt peak era. So monocrystalline 500 watt peak multi-bus bar technology would be the way forward. I think it comes with 2 variants. Basically, there is just the typical front panel backsheet variant, and of course the other would be bifacial, which means you have solar modules on the front and the back of the solar module. So those would be very applicable for utility scale, whereby the panels are elevated from the ground, so that you can get some albedo effect to reflect back onto the rear cells. So I think in terms of technology, that's where we are. Mono technology, 500 watt peak minimum watt peak panels. Number 3, okay, O&M cost. I think this is a very subjective. There's no definite answer for this. I think O&M cost, depending on your location, depending on your labor cost, depending on your scope as well, it could vary quite a bit. But I would say roughly, as a guideline from what we see, it should be somewhere like maybe 0.5% to 1% of a EPC price as a rough gauge. What was the next one? Oh, number 5, right? How do investors monitor performance of the portfolio and ultimately their investments? Well, I would say that firstly, you probably need to have some sort of software, something that can do data analytics for you. Like I mentioned earlier, for Trina, we of course have Trina Aurora, but there are many other brands in the market available, very, very good ones as well. You need some sort of data analytics to be able to make sense of all the data that you're receiving from the plant. And you probably want to have a team, a technical team, to digest and basically provide useful information of said data. That's how you improve on your performance, or even just monitoring in the first place to see whether it's actually meeting its requirements, its PR ratio guarantees and whatnot. You probably also want to have, like I mentioned earlier, a very religious O&M process, right? You want to set up a team that basically helps to clean the panels, helps to clean the inverters and everything, take reports, do product exchanges whatsoever, basically just maintaining the plant, be it on a utility scale or even on a rooftop. If it's a rooftop, then maybe it's a bit easier. You can probably get the building management team to help to do basic O&M services on the building itself. Yep. So I think that would be all. I would like to leave some time so that our next speaker, Mr. Koh, has sufficient time to present. So I think that will be all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wilson. I see there's a question for you in Q&A box. Please kindly check and answer the question. And very great presentation there. Okay, let's move to our next speaker. The last speaker is Mr. Tran Zhang Ko from Plus Solar. Mr. Tran Zhang Ko is an experienced entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of business experience in clean energy industry. As the CEO, Ms. Tran sets the company's direction and strategy, ensuring that they are executed with a focus on satisfactory results. As a total clean energy solution provider, his company Plus Solar provides clean energy solutions integrated with a state-of-the-art technology, cost-effective financing options to fulfill society's every needs of clean energy. Let's welcome Mr. Tran. Mr. Tran, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, Oscar, thanks a lot. So I think I will share my slide here.
Yes, please share your slide and start your presentation.
All right. Good day, everyone. So today I'm going to share about unlocking CNI rooftop solar in Vietnam and Asian markets. All right. Okay. So at first, I would like to do a very quick self-introduction. Basically, I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Plus Solar. So Plus Solar, we are the just awarded the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year for Emerging Markets in 2019. And personally, I have already active in solar industry since 2008, in 12 years back in 13 over country, 20 over city in South Asian region, this Pacific area, Middle East and South Africa. So today, I'm going to share with these 5 different content with every one of us here. First, I will do a very quick introduction about who are we, which is about Plus Solar. Second, I will share some of our view and our thought about the clean energy journey in Asian country. Third is some of the case study, which I would like to share, is about shopping complex. The second case study will talk about the industrial park. And last but not least, we would like to share some of the cutting edge technology that usually we will apply in our CNI markets. So first, let's talk about Plus Solar. And I would like to just play a quick video, which is less than 2 minutes. So I hope this video can speak louder than, the video can speak louder than words. Okay, all right. So this is about Plus Solar solution portfolio. Actually, Plus Solar, we are a group of companies that we focus on clean energy itself. So at this point of time, actually, we are covering, providing a couple of different solutions for a different purpose in these South Asian regions. So first, we do have a solar solution for CNI markets. Yeah, as I will share more detail with you later on. Secondly, we do have solution for utility scale as well, like solar power plants. And third, we do work on some of the special projects like off-grid, microgrid, energy storage solutions. And the other one is we do provide this smart energy management solution by utilizing AI and IoT solutions to help the building owners to further utilize their energy in a smarter way. And meanwhile, we do provide the operation maintenance solutions. And last but not least, we do involve in project development. So we invest in some of the project in the past, and right now, actually, we do collaborate with different investors to develop the project together. So up to the date, since the year that we started in 2012, we have already completed more than 122 over megawatts project, which cover more than 140 over buildings and 6 different solar farms. So here are some of solar farms that we built before. The size, it could be up from like 5 megawatts, or this is about 9 megawatts, or 60 over megawatts, and like about close to about 30 megawatts. So at the same time, we are the market leaders of CNI in Malaysia. So from time being, among these 140 over building, which consists more than 15 over industry from different places. All right. So those industry which cover plastic industry, rubber industry, F&B, cold storage, electronics, office tower, oil and gas, shopping complex, chemical, university, building materials, chicken farms, and so on. Yeah, so we have various different industry portfolio which we have built before. So for each different industry, for us to design and build our solar system, it is crucial and important for us to understand their business nature, for us to understand how can we customize the best solution on the roof to, and also the energy demand in order for us to fit the right energy solution for them, which is how can we manage on the demand side and also the supply side for building itself. So just some of a quick view. Here is some of completed project. This is one of a university that we did, and this is like those aquaponics solution which people they do farming on the solar panels. Yeah, so there's a type of a different solution that we built for different roof, different buildings, office tower, and so on. All right, so that's a quick introduction about Plus Solar. So right now, I would like to share some of the thought about the clean energy journey in Southeast Asia. So I would say, because I spent a couple of years in Southeast Asia, this region to develop business, which today I will not cover some of the area and also the point which other beloved speaker has already presented. So I will bring a little bit of different perceptions and in the bigger view for everyone to understand about usually how the business really runs in Southeast Asia industry, if let's say you are not really from solar industry background. So from this session, you're able to know how it's flow and how the business go. So usually in solar business 1.0 is the moment which solar system price is still not so friendly, and the utility electricity rate is pretty competitive, is pretty low. So usually in solar business 1.0 era, you can't really see solar will deploy over there. So I would say in the past few years, let's say in 10 years back in Southeast Asia, definitely we are definitely in a business 1.0. And after that, some country they started to have in tariff policy. Usually we call this as a solar business 2.0 area. So policy-driven growth, this will happen in this period of time. And when you see the gap between the utility electricity rate has really increased, and also the cost of solar system has really dropped. So usually this gap, then the government, they come a policy called feed-in tariff and to close out the gap. So Germany, they are the first one, one of the first one in the world who deployed this in year 2000. And right now, Vietnam started from last year, they have already implemented feed-in tariff. And at the same time, there are a few other countries in Southeast Asia has already deployed feed-in tariff in the past. It could be like from Malaysia, from this the country like Philippines, Thailand, they call it as adder. So all of us, we have go through this. to really able to stimulate and also to activate the solar market. However, for our point of view, in order to build a sustainable business and also in a sustainable energy industry, the best and also the long-term view is we do not over-rely on the government subsidies. So that's this economy of scale. From here, actually, the source from McKinsey, what we can see, when the demand is high, actually the price for solar system, it will drop. So due to this reason, there are a couple of places actually in the world and also the country, they have already reached the grid parity. So when the country, the tariff rate and also the solar system price, the LCOE, everything has already reached the grid parity, the policy, it will change to like a net energy net metering model, and also it will come with a more self-sustained growth model. Yeah, so actually this is the zone that most of the country it will go, and it will driven to this area. And a few places in South Asia right now has already achieved the zone of this grid parity in the early stage or in the middle stage. The places could be like Singapore, actually like Thailand and Malaysia. Yeah, so those are the few countries which right now we like Malaysia situation actually still rely on some for subsidies on the tax part, but the rest is all really depends on the solar energy and also the electricity tariff rate. Yeah. So why Vietnam markets? Based on this IHS information, what we see, even though the COVID-19 is there, actually it really impact a lot of country economic growth, especially this will affect the energy demand, the power demand. So Vietnam is one of the few countries in South Asia which we can see the power demand growth, even though there's some drop, but still in a positive side. So that's why definitely Vietnam is one of the best market right now in South Asia. And we all know due to the global supply chain damage and also the impact from COVID-19, there's a lot of different manufacturers basically they have already switched their production factory from China to other places to South Asia. And Vietnam definitely is one of the places which gain a lot of new investment in this period of time. So from this source from McKinsey, what we can see is, yeah, actually this is the flow which is same as a lot of different countries. This happened in this Thailand and Philippines, and we believe this will happen in Vietnam as well, which is when the country just started the solar market, it will always go with the utility scale. So so after that, we will see the rooftop market, which is a distributed solar, that it will rise. And I would say the rooftop market, which is a market which is more sustainable and which is more consistent. Yeah. So if let's say anyone who like to develop any markets, I would say C&I market is always there, and it is always more consistent. Yeah, it compared with the rest of the different markets. So these are the few reasons why Vietnam and also the C&I markets is one of the options for the different investor. And also if let's say you guys are own a factory, or if let's say you guys are the industrial park developer, definitely this is one of a different business opportunity for you to explore into that. So over here, I would like to share some of the case study, the actual real case study that what we have did before with a different business owner. So the first one which I would like to share is a shopping complex that we built for IKEA. So IKEA is a world famous furniture companies which we proudly that we are able to build for 3 different shopping complex for them in Malaysia. The first one is in in Kuala Lumpur, about 1.3 megawatts. It's on the roof. Yeah, that's what you can see. This is at KL. And we built the one in southern Malaysia, Johor, which is about 1.3 megawatts. And one more in Penang, which is in 2 years back, which is also about 1.3 megawatts. So IKEA shopping complex, the unique of this project that we did, which is very different from the other project, is because first of all, this is not the existing building. We have to design and build our solar system together with the building construction itself. So which means when the roof has already installed, we have to start to deploy and also to install our mounting structure and our solar panel on top of that. So this is the first one. So the schedule and also the design and also the work on about the communication, how to sync with the building's main contractor is really crucial. And secondly is because IKEA, they deploy a lot of solar system globally, worldwide. So they are very familiar with solar system. And one of the uniqueness of their building, they are not a typical metal deck roof. And they are the metal deck roof, but come with a membrane on top of it to have this waterproof function and also the features. So what we need to do is our solution when we have to deploy and also do installation on the roof, have to be really careful. We have to go through our own structural calculations, our material selection, which is all approved by their membrane material supplier to ensure our solution without penetrations but with its own weight, it can sit and also lie on a solar on this building rooftop. So as what you can see from this picture, we are using the counterweight mounting structure solution to install our these mounting structures on the roof itself. So on a different roof from IKEA, there's a different deploy solution. So some of the roof actually, as what you can see here, we are not using the concrete block, but we are using a kind of special this anchor that we put an adhesive to stick the anchor together with the roof membrane and to stick our mounting structure on top of it to make sure it can really sit there for long and also without any penetration, any damage on the roof. So yeah, this is a typical solar installations constructions picture that we will install on the rail, and also we install the solar panels on the roof. Yeah, and this is usually when we done the installation on the rooftop. And some of the cablings arrangement and also the deployment, how we design the cable to make it really organized and also able to link with the DC combiner box on the rooftop. And this DC combiner on the rooftop is also based on our calculation without any penetration on the roof. We have to sit on its own weight on this membrane roof and make it really solid and really safe. So all the cable you link to the inverters, and we design inverters and also the MSB room solar in the whole shopping complex. So it is unique and also special for solar to see on that. And also all the distance and the calculation we have also has already calculated to make sure the performance and also the cable loss has minimized. So this is some of the pictures. And yeah, this is a completion of the project. So the next one which I would like to share is a case study that we did for First Solar for the industrial parks, in one of the industrial parks. So I do understand that right now in Vietnam, there's a lot of industrial park and there's a lot of huge opportunity from the industrial parks. The developer would like to deploy the solar system to all the manufacturers and all the business owners over there. So this is one of the case study that we invest and own this solar system, and then we lease this land from First Solar, and we are using their solar panels. So this is something that we do a little bit different. We are not install solar on the roof, but we build the solar car park for them, and then we lease the land, this piece of land for them, and then we build a solar car park for all the First Solar employee. So yeah, the size is about 400 over kilowatts. And yeah, I would say solar car park structures is something quite common in Southeast Asia. And I believe definitely this also will be one of a trend for Vietnam market as well. The only challenge is the cost of the structure itself and also the tariff rate. So probably this could extend the payback periods for the investor. So as usual, what we have to do on the footing part to do the piling, to make sure our columns, the structure is really solid, and then we can install on the roof parts. And one of the uniqueness of this solar car park project is we don't have any car park roof. We are using solar panel as a roof materials itself. So some people, they might call this as a BIPV, building integrated photovoltaic. Yeah, and this is how you see how we can install the solar panels together, seamless together with the whole solar car park. And most importantly, is all the cabling, how we organize it, how we install it. We have to really make sure from aesthetic point of view, looks nice, and it's really safe. So from here you can see our installer, they are organizing the cables in a nicer way. And this is the work done of the solar car parks. Yeah, in this for solar in factory and also at this industrial park. So here's the last part from my sessions. So what we'd like to share is actually right now for energy industry, beside go for green on the infrastructure parts like solar power plant and also solar rooftop, actually what we also added value for all the building owners and also the developers is through our building energy performance management solution, which we call it Source Navi. So this is the in-house solution that 100% built by our own engineers and also the in-house developer. And by installing this smart meter and also deploy with our this software solutions, the building owners, or let's say for us, who develop and also who own the solar system, we are able to do our own solar asset performance management at glance. So over here, we're able to see there how many buildings around and know our portfolio, which building is online, which building is offline, what's the problem, and also what is the total energy consumption, and so on. And definitely this system, we are able to drill into details until every single buildings, every single inverter of it. Yeah. So at the same time, I think this is also something quite crucial for a lot of manufacturers and also the business building owners, which they would like to lower down their energy consumption. So these are the functions that for the building owners, they are able to know what will be the energy saving for their building after they deploy solar. So these are the platforms that able for business owner or building owner to digitalize their energy consumption, help them to digitalize and also able to track the data of it. So when they're able to track the data, it can go beyond solar for the energy saving. Yeah, if let's say they're able to know which data is come from which production line and how can they lower down the energy consumption from point A to point B. Yeah, so this is just some of the example of it. Yeah, so last but not least, thanks a lot for your time. And this is some of my, this is my contact and also my email address. So what we believe is we would like to create the clean energy for Southeast Asian by Southeast Asian. So that's all for my side.
Okay, thank you, Cole, for your presentation. Here we have some questions from our audience for you and for Plus Solar. And later on, I'll share a very interesting from our live webinar. I'll just show you the question. Can you kindly answer the questions from our participants? Here are 5 questions. Again, I guess you can answer each of them.
All right. Okay. So I'll go through one by one. Okay. All right. The first one, what are the key drivers in other leading country in Asia to motivate rooftop solar development tariff rate? Yeah, I would say there are a couple of it. Let's say during the feed-in tariff period, which is when that country just started the solar policy. Usually, there are 4 things which is really crucial. First of all, it's about the policy. So we need to get the right policy to match the right solar system rate and also the electricity rate. This policy need to make sure the financial modeling, the economics point of view for this investment is attractive and it is able to work. So when the policy is able to drive the right incentive to make sure the investment is workable and also bankable, then we were able to get financing to move the project, to kick off the project. So I would say these are the flow, and this is really important for the country in Asia to kickstart the solar project, especially on the country itself. And also after the feed-in tariff, let's say, I think it's just a matter of time, the government, they will slowly reduce their incentive and also the subsidies on the feed-in tariff. It will definitely go for like net metering model. So like what happened in Singapore. So in net metering model, one of the very important things, I would say, it will no longer be policy driven, but it will back to the pricing itself. The price of a solar system and also versus the electricity pricing must be really competitive. So energy saving will be crucial, which is the outcome of the whole mechanism. So as long as solar system is able to drive energy saving, then we will see the demand to deploy solar on the building. It will be there. Yeah. So this is some of my view for the first questions. All right. Okay. So Oscar, so I will just straight go to the second questions. Okay.
Yes. Go ahead. Your second question.
Okay. How can I benefit in expanding generation capacity on my factory rooftop? So definitely, I would say what you can benefit is first of all, if let's say you invest on that, you can enjoy your investment, your payback as an additional income for your buildings. Yeah. And also, if let's say you are the building owners, then you invest on the capex. Definitely, this will be the source of different revenue for you. And secondly, it will be for the energy saving itself. The more that you invest, the more you own the system, the more energy you can save. So it will help you to further reduce your building operation cost, because electricity cost is one of the highest capex for most of the manufacturers, beside raw material and also the human capital. So electricity cost usually it is one of the top 10 higher capex. So this will be the benefit of it. So if let's say today you don't want to come up any capex, you can go for OPEX model, which is there's like the private PPA model and also the roof leasing model, which the investor, the developer, they invest the solar system on the roof, and you can enjoy some of the energy saving by subscribe on the lower per PPA tariff, as well as probably you can have some of a roof leasing rental from the investor. So these are the benefits that you can get for question 2. All right, so for question 3, yeah, so there's an impact for COVID-19 on economy. So do you see C&I owners save their cash for operation rather than put in this rooftop solar? So I would say it really depends. It really depends on the policy. It really depends on each company cash flow. But I would say right now we do have some of inquiry from the building owners who would like to invest on solar system on the capex model. We do have still come across with a lot of these building owners. Probably they are doing gloves. They are doing some of the medical. They are in this medical industry, or probably they are from the F&B industry. So the demand is still there. But I would say majority of the rest of other C&I owner, they prefer to go with OPEX model. So in that case, based on your needs, based on your business situation, you can make a choice. And if let's say you would like to reserve some cash on your operation, definitely we will encourage you to go for the private PPA model, which is lesser risk. You don't need to come up any single cents. At the same time, you are still able to enjoy the energy saving from this solar investor. All right. So number 4, how big is the growth potential of this hybridization markets in ASEAN? All right. I would say for question number 4, the growth potential in future definitely is there, but I will see right now not really there yet. I would say these off-grid solutions is always there, is in Asian region, especially in Asian region. However, I would say everything it will still back to the LCOE, the levelized cost of energy, that we all have to compare, which is the solar, diesel, and hybrid energy cost. Does it really competitive? It compare with other energy costs. If let's say this is an off-grid solution, which is on an island, which don't have any utility and also infrastructure, yeah, probably this can work. But in most of a city and also the high developed country and the area in ASEAN, I would say it will be a little bit challenged, because right now solar just about to reach grid parity in most of the country in this Southeast Asia. And however, battery solution, they still need some time to achieve that the grid parity in Southeast Asia. So I will say potential is there, but the time is not there yet. It probably we still have to wait for a few couple of years. Is my point of view. And the last questions: have you considered create embedded network on industrial principles to optimize renewable utilization and also support the public grid instead of being a burden. All right, this is a very interesting question, I would say. When we build this solar system in national parks, and what we find out is, yeah, it could become a microgrid situation, as the whole industrial park, for example, when not all the factory and when not all the building are building solar, actually the building who invest and also have solar system, when they have excess power, actually they can sell to the building who are not using and who are not install any solar system. So in order to make this happen and actualize, actually probably that country, they need the policy and also the right policy and also the right technology there. The right policy which I refer is it could be like P2P platform, which is peer-to-peer trading platform, which is the prosumer, they can sell the energy, solar energy excess power to the consumer. Okay, the prosumer to the consumer itself. Yeah, so this can work. And also the other policy, they can call this as like third-party access, which is I just direct use my physical cable with or my network to connect with that buildings. Yeah, so I can direct sell, not based on the virtual on the P2P platform, but through the physical one. So here are some of the possibility that can explore, but definitely everything it has to back to the policy. Okay, so Oscar, that's most of my answer for the questions.
Yeah, I see there's a very interesting question during the live webinar. The question is, in your experience of many solar deployment projects at Malaysia, have you seen an increase in business case to incorporate energy storage system? And what would be the key considerations?
All right, I would say at this moment, not really. One of the key consideration is the cost, because the energy storage system, which we come across before, probably just as serve for backup purpose, the energy reserve, power reserve purpose, but it's not really to lower down the energy consumption's purpose. So the cost, the energy cost is one of the key considerations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. I guess there are two questions in the Q&A box for you, and please take your time to answer them at your free time. And thank you very much for sharing, Mr. Chuan. I appreciate your time and patience. And also, I'll do a very short closing for this webinar. And many thanks for our respectful speakers' presentations. I think you can learn a lot from their sharings. If you still have some questions to speakers, please feel free to discuss with them on our one-on-one networking platform. At last, I would like to remind you of the conference, Renewable Asset Management Vietnam 2020 on 15th to 16th this October in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. As Asia's solar assets management and O&M leading gathering, the conference gathers decision makers from regulators, corporate buyers, utilities, investors, developers, as well as EPC contractors. CNI Solar will be one of the major focus at the event. If you register due 30 this June, you can enjoy 20% super early bird discounts. Should you have any inquiries, don't hesitate to contact us. At the last of the last, don't worry, PPT slides and recordings will be shared by email on this Friday. And thank you again for your participation. See you next time.